You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
Salam. My name is Sheikh Abu Hakim Abdullah, President Chairman of Al Masjid Sharia Law, AMSA, a non-profit religious organization operating in the state of Rhode Island in New England, USA. I want to ask the President of the United States a question, and that's what I'm doing now. I want to know, how do you expect the Muslims to work with you when you already segregated the different groups? And you split them down the middle and say, you're not going to do anything, you're not going to talk to anyone but a moderate, so-called modern Muslim. They're not the majority of Muslims. And the so-called modern Muslim, as you call them, are the same ones that wanted to go to bed with Hussein when he took over Kuwait. They wanted to do his work for him in Kuwait. They wanted to work for him and take over his stuff that he had in Kuwait in his name. How do you expect the Muslims to go ahead and say, well, let's work with the President of the United States? Also, when they look at you as apostate, one that was in the religion and then left. Your mother took you out of it and you left. You got out of a Muslim school and everything else. So how do you expect them to live with you, work with you that way? And then you threaten them. You tell them if they give money to the wrong person, they're going to go to jail, or they're going to get thrown out of the United States and whatnot, or you're going to lock them up as a terrorist, and all this other kind of stuff. Well, one thing happened there lately, that thing that happened in Boston, that could have been stopped. With the right thing going on in Boston, that could have been stopped. That had no business taking place in Boston by those two guys, by those two people that call themselves Muslims. Just three acts that happened in that bombing, they violated heavy codes in the Islamic way of life. 1, they killed a child. 2, they killed a woman. 3, they wounded old people. On and on and on. They killed non-combatants. They killed innocent civilians and all that. And all that's against the laws that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ laid down to us in Sharia. So they're not seen as Muslims at all. But the point is, what I'm trying to tell you is that was a message to the people around the world that terrorism is not over because bin Laden is dead. Terrorism is not over. It's really just beginning. I told you this long time ago. I told this to President Reagan. I said this to President Bush. I said this to President Clinton. And I said it to you in the letters, that you must talk to the Muslims, all the Muslims. You cannot segregate yourself with groups of Muslims you talk to. You cannot talk to the so-called moderates, and the so-called moderates are openly violating laws of Islam. Yes, openly violating laws of Islam. These are the ones that want to be partners with the United States and everything else and what they're doing. I'm an American citizen. I was born here in the United States. My father's father was born here in the United States. I go all the way back to the times of the Asiatic black man walking into the United States 10,000, 13,000 years ago. My seed is on both sides. I'm African American and Native American. I'm mixed with all that. So I'm going to talk to you about what you got to do. What you have to do now, and I hate to tell it to you, you're going to have to drop that thing openly about you're not going to deal with nobody but the moderates, and you're going to have to recognize that there's other people in Islam that need to speak to you, or you need to speak to them, that control and also controls the masjids around the world, that can talk to people about this terrorism stuff and to stop this terrorism stuff. That's right. Muslims had the power to stop this terrorism thing. They have that power. They just don't use it because they're scared of using it. If they use it, if they fight the terrorists, they're going to get blown up. If they don't fight the terrorists, they're going to get blown up. Regardless of which way they go, going to get blown up. So they just throw their hands up in the air and just say, I'm through, I'm through, I'm through. And yet you're still walking around talking about, I'm not going to deal with nobody but the terrorists. I'm not going to deal with nobody but the moderates. Well, I'm trying to talk to you about that. I'm going to send you this copy of this. I hope after the FBI and the CIA and all these other different alphabets stop looking at it, they get it to you. And let you personally sit down and look at it. I'm not going to send a piece to the newspapers and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to do that. I'm sending it direct to Washington, D.C. And you can question people about me in Rhode Island. You can ask them about my actions since I've been in Rhode Island. And they will tell you they see no terrorism coming out of me. And the only thing they seen coming out of me was the will to stand up against terrorism of all kinds. I don't care if it's a Muslim terrorizing somebody, or the so-called Christians terrorizing somebody, or the Buddhists terrorizing somebody, or the Jews terrorizing somebody, or it's the whole Western world terrorizing somebody. I do not agree with terrorism and should stop it and feel like it should be stopped. That's it. Whether you put water bargain and any kind of stuff, electricity and all that to make people talk, that's terrorizing. When they dropped the bomb in Japan, that was terrorizing. You talk about two people getting blown up in Boston. They're still dying from Japan. And the people that was bombed in Japan was the non-combatants. Children run down the street, skin coming off their bodies. 100 and something thousand people died in one day. One day. The majority of the army wasn't in Japan. They was outside Japan on them islands and stuff fighting. So the children was the ones that got bombed. Both cities. Because you wanted to show the world that you had the powers. We have the powers. The United States had the power, had this one thing that nobody else had. Now everybody's trying to get one. They opened the Pandora box when they turned around and dropped them bombs. But before that, they were burning people up with fire bombs. Burning them. They knew that they had wooden houses and was dropping fire bombs on them deliberately, the citizens of Japan. So don't talk about terrorizing people. Somebody terrorizing us. Think of all the things that the United States did, Great Britain did, England, France did, Germany did, and all that kind of stuff together, and you look around and say, who is the ones that have been terrorizing the people the most? Who is the beginners of terrorizing? And maybe you shake your head and get on your knees and ask God to forgive us all. So I'm talking to you straight up. There's no chaser, there's no chaser with this. I'm talking to you straight up. That you got to, the only way to get this settled is if you get on that boob tube, that television, that net, and all the other stuff that you're on to get them dollars. And tell the Muslim world that you're ready to sit down with all the Muslims around the world and talk to them about ending terrorism. Whether it's whatever sect they say they belong to. Because it's got to come out of the Muslim world. That's where they're coming from. They're coming out of the so-called Muslim world. They're being hatched out of the Muslim world. It's like the chicken flu, or whatever you call that thing. The Chinese didn't get rid of the eggs. They got rid of all the chickens. They killing the chickens and get a new batch of chickens because it's coming about the chickens. So you have to do something with them. You have to talk to them. It's not, believe me, it's not the kings and queens and all that can stop terrorism. It's the Muslims can stop terrorism, not King so-and-so or King this or Bishop that or Knight this or the Rook this. It's the Muslims got to stop terrorism. They got to stop terrorism. They got to stop all this stuff. They got to re-educate themselves, reorganize themselves. This is what they have to do. They have to reorganize themselves before they get caught in the trap. There's a trap being set for them. The trap is from their own people. Their own people are making this trap. One, I heard that certain people, certain countries are trying to go democratic. You know why? Because before the revolution starts in those countries, they want to be considered democratic, for they can turn around and say, we're being attacked by the terrorists. We're being attacked by terrorists. Never mind we're being attacked because we've been beating the Muslims up, my own brothers and sisters, but we've been attacked by terrorists. That's what that dude's trying to say in Syria. He is being attacked by terrorism. And that's what the president of Egypt got. He was attacked by terrorism. It's mixed all into that. And moderates, and high school students, and college students, those that want to kick their hands up in the air, sit down and go out with each other and transfer AIDS to each other. They part of it too. So I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you straight up. A lot of you might not understand. A lot of you might not like what I'm saying. I don't care if you like it or dislike it. People dislike or like it. I work for God. Not for mankind. I work for God. I work for God, Allah. I work for the God. One God. That's God, Allah. Al meaning one, the, and Ilah meaning God. I work for one God, Allah. That's what it means. And I believe in the Sharia, which a lot of people in Islam don't want the Sharia. This is why they ran to the United States, because they didn't want the Sharia. They want to kick their hands up and they want red lipstick. They want jewelry. They want short dresses. Or they want to show their bodies. They want to be known and seen by men. They want to go out and dance. They want to go out and party. They want to wear earrings. They want to wear tight pants for the men who wear tight pants. They want to walk around with their hair, with earrings in their ears, with slick hair back. They want to smoke the weed and smoke the coke and all that other kind of stuff. So they don't want the Sharia. If the Sharia was in Islam constantly, they wouldn't have had them two boys or them two people kill them people out in Boston. They would have did something about that. You can believe it. There was no big secret about that. There's nobody just talking. Nobody's not talking. Somebody had to know what they were doing. The kid was so messed up, he couldn't even leave Boston. They weren't driving out to leave Boston. They were driving out to do some more mess. They weren't trying to get away. And they killed that policeman. So I think you need to get it together, Mr. President. Yes. Yes, I believe in fundamentalism. I believe that we should go back to the original way with Islam. That's fundamentalism. But I'm an Orthodox, strict Muslim. I believe that if a person steals $200-something worth of something and guilty of robbery and stuff like that, he should have his hand cut off. How many people you see running down the street, one hand trying to carry a television? Or in somebody's pocket, one hand talking about they're going to be a pickpocket. They don't have no other hand to put the money in. We wouldn't have these jails all filled up with another world of people. That if they all broke out right now to right now, we wouldn't be able to control what was going on. We're talking about 12 million foreigners in the United States from Mexico. We got 7 or 8 million in jail. That's foreigners that wouldn't be able to we wouldn't be able to control the mess that they start. They always out, and it's getting bigger, larger. So I hope you can understand what I'm saying to you. I think you need to sit down and really talk to all the Muslims. One thing you should do is start calling up the Muslims in the United States and be able to talk to them. The Muslims that's trying to stand up against terrorism. Not the Muslims that's trying to turn around and go to bed with nobody. Not the Muslims trying to pass the reefer law or go along with the so-called men marrying men. But the Muslims that's trying to stand up for Islam. This is what you should try to do. This is the one you need to invite to dinner, invite in the White House. This is what you need to do, talk to them. Because that's very important for you to do that. The revolution in the United States is not going to come from terrorists. Not the terrorists as you know them. The revolution in the United States is going to come from the Caucasian people, the so-called white people and terrorists that got these shotguns and got all these guns and stuff like that and whatnot that belong to the Klan, the skinheads, and all that. It's going to be the next revolution in the United States. And part of the middle class and all that's going to be the next revolution in the United States. That's right. Everybody know that, but everybody know that. If they don't, they fools. Bismillah. So I'm trying to talk to you. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. This is what's happening here with us. We have to do something about this. I've been years now singing the same song I'm singing now. I've been years doing what I'm doing right now. I'm not sitting down there doing something other than what I'm doing. I've been writing to kings and everybody else. Then I wrote to you. I sent the letters to the king of Saudi Arabia, the Emir of Kuwait, the ambassador of Qatar. Believe me, I did that. The ambassador, the king, the president of Egypt. My letters went to all these people. And I'm just telling you right away. I'm telling you right now. You got to get it together, Mr. President. You're running the people, you're running the Muslims away from you. That should tell you something when a kid, 19 years old, turned around, just became an American citizen, turned around and let his big brother talk him into blowing up some people. If you can see the way he was walking down the road with the knapsack, he wasn't ready for it anyway. He was just going along with his big brother. The big brother that felt that he was being denied the right to fight for real, to fight in the United States because he didn't have a passport, that he wasn't a citizen to fight in the Golden Gloves. This is exactly what he was involved with. So he was mad at the United States anyway. The kid wasn't doing nothing but having a ball the way that people talk about him. He was smoking that weed and partying around the college group and the homeboys and all that in Boston. The newspaper people from CNN asked him, well, was he an active Muslim? He said, no, he wasn't an active Muslim. He didn't act like no Muslim to them. One tried to get him in the MSI, the Muslim Islamic Society, Muslim Islamic Association. That's the MSI. And he wouldn't join. I can think that's really forbid. There's a lot of things I don't accept from the Muslim Student Association. Because it's going contrary to what Allah did. There's things that I disagree with them in their books and all that. I disagree with a lot of things coming from them. I said that to brothers in Kuwait, when I was in the Kuwait last. I said that to the Abdullah family that own the big stores in Kuwait. I said that to Sheikh Nasser, the brother of the Emir of Kuwait, the late Emir, the brother Saad, the brother that was foreign affairs, and they didn't give him the job of Emir. I said it to him also. It's not that I haven't talked to people on other levels. I have. I have talked to people on other levels. I talked to Pell, Reed, Mackley, Sutherland, tried to get to talk to Alman. I didn't mess with Concherry, because I know where Concherry was. I didn't mess with him. These are governors of Rhode Island, people in Rhode Island. But you, Mr. President, I tried to talk to you too, but you didn't even answer my letter. And there's one other thing I want to ask you about. You're saying to me, I sent you a letter acknowledging that, of your position as president, that you being the first African or split race person that has been elected in the House into the presidency. And your office sent my letter to the Democratic Party asking to write me about some money for the Democratic Party. I didn't even receive a letter of thank you for the letter I sent to you and the knowledge I sent to you of what I'm doing in Rhode Island, or a letter acknowledging that I asked for you to come here and have a townhouse meeting here in Rhode Island, where it's more, the whole state of Rhode Island has voted for you. It's mostly Democrats. I didn't receive a letter back. And then I look around, you're talking about you're not going to talk to anybody but a moderate, but you're asking everybody for money. You asking the non-moderates to give you donations for your election, at the same time the Democratic Party. But yet you say you're not going to talk with them or deal with them about anything. How are you going to do that? How are you going to ask me for money and you don't want me to come in your house? Think about what you're saying out your mouth, Mr. President. Think about what you're saying. You're not going to give me a chance to prove that I'm not anything of what you think I am. But you're going to turn around and pick up people that have chose the world that they went along with Hussein, when half the Muslim world refused to even deal with Hussein, behind him going into Kuwait and doing what he did in Kuwait. But you turn around and going to put and do what you want to do with them. Mr. President, I believe you should get yourself together. I don't know if I'm going to hear from you behind this here. I don't know who's going to send me a letter. I don't know if the FBI is going to be in my house or whatnot. But y'all know where I live. They've been here before. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين صدق الله العظيم.